As companies grow in size, more and more APIs tend to be added. As these APIs are added, it becomes exponentially more difficult to track how sensitive information flows throughout the code base. Despite best intentions, it can be quite easy for this personally identifiable information to be accidentally exposed by an API. Fortunately, Moderne offers a recipe that uses rich information to detect how sensitive data flows throughout your code. This recipe can detect all sorts of things that a text-based search would fail at. Let's walk through how to find and use this recipe so that you can be more confident that your APIs are not unintentionally exposing sensitive data. So if we go to the Moderne homepage and we see here that I've selected the Netflix and Spring organization, this organization is made up of 143 repositories that we will run this recipe against. The recipe we want to run is the find sensitive API endpoints recipe. So if we navigate to this page, we could see that it's asking us for a list of field names that we think are important to search for. So I can add things such as like birth date. Let's add a bunch of these. Social security number, DOB, which is a common date of birth acronym, but we could also add date of birth. We could do street address, first name, last name. So these are all common things that an API might expose that you may not want them to expose. If we scroll down, we could see that we could select transitive, true, or false. So if we select true, this will allow the recipe to step through many levels of classes to try and find the sensitive data. So for instance, if you had an API that returned an object and that object just had the sensitive data, then this wouldn't be needed. But if you have an API that returns an object that calls another object or is made up of other objects and so on and so forth, that wouldn't find it if you didn't set sensitivity to true or transitivity to true. So let's set that to true and let's run this recipe. So already you can see that we're getting some results here. So let's take a look at Spring Pet Clinic. And just as an FYI, Spring Pet Clinic is purposely done in this way to demonstrate this. It's not like it's an insecure product. But if we look over here, we could see that it's calling out, hey, this get mapping of vets, your vets API is returning sensitive data. And if we click on this, we're like, huh, interesting. So vets actually ends up returning a person that has a last name and a first name. And so let's dive into this and see what this class actually looks like. So if we go to the vets class, we could see, or the vet controller, which is where the API is, we could see the slash vets is what someone would call to get to this API, and it's returning a vets object from this method. So if we look at the vets object, we could see it's an object that represents a list of veterinarians. And there's a method in here called getVetList that returns the list of vets. So then if we look at what is a vet, we could see, oh, a vet is an object representing a veterinarian, and that extends a person. And then if we just keep going, oh, person is now an object that has a first and last name. So this recipe is discovered through all of this chain that here we're giving a first and last name available from our API, which is no good. And so this is a way that you can sort of discover this and decide like, hey, maybe we should do something about this. Like maybe this is acceptable. Like, maybe we're like, okay, cool. We accept that a first and a last name is there. But, imagine if this person or if this person object had a social security number and you didn't even realize that this vets API was exposing that. This is a good way to find that out and then do something about it. So with this recipe, you could see that we could be confident in what our APIs are or are not returning, and we can ensure that the sensitive data is not flowing out when we don't want it to be flowing out.
To learn more about Moderne and OpenRewrite, check out our documentation.